And we're live. Jen, morning everyone. Haven't done this for a while, Albert, so I'm checking on if you're live on X. We are live. Hello and Jen, morning everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Braincast live stream. My name is Tony. I'm the head of content and community for Genlayer Labs, and today with us we have Albert, who is the co-founder and CEO of Genlayer Labs.
Hi everyone.
Well, Albert, there's a lot to celebrate. Lately, we've seen the emergence of the first dApp built on Genlayer. To repeat for everyone, what is Genlayer? Genlayer is the trust infrastructure for the AI age, a digital ledger and a decision maker for dApps, smart contracts, and AI agents. And as those of you know who have been here at these live streams before, obviously at the end of the sessions, we're going to have a pop mint. This time, because we haven't had this live stream for 2 weeks now, we're going to have 500 pops instead of 250 pops. So you have double the chance to win a pop at the end of the session. And we're going to talk about Rally, the first decentralized AI-powered marketing protocol, first dApp built on Genlayer, the first among many others in the near future. And I thought, who's better to talk about this? Whom do I bring on board for this live stream other than Albert? Albert, thanks for taking the time once again.
Thank you, Rami.
And to give everyone an overview of what we're going to do here today. So we're going to talk about Rally, how it works. We're very excited. Give you an overview of the platform. Albert is going to share kind of what he kind of understood the vision is for the whole project and what's going on behind closed curtains. We're going to give you a CTA on where you can follow Rally, where you can sign up. I know there's been a lot of questions also within the Genlayer community. Without further ado, Albert, I know you have heard a lot about it, and you can share more about the vision and kind of where Rally is heading.
Yeah, for sure. So I think first to me, I really want to highlight why I think this matters, right? So Genlayer is essentially this trustless decision maker, right? The question is, if you have Bitcoin that allows you for doing trustless money and Ethereum trustless applications, what can you do with trustless decision making, right? And our bet is that basically there's going to be tons of new primitives that will be possible by having this trustless decision making mechanism that is essentially accessible from any existing blockchain, right? What this will mean is basically new types of applications that right now are not possible because, well, right now blockchains are deterministic, are isolated from the outside world, right? What Genlayer enables is this trustless decision-making system that allows you to essentially have new types of contracts, right? And I'm very, very excited to see some of them started to pop up, right? So for example, Rally is an example of this, which is this, marketing protocol, right? It's you can think about, when you have an influencer marketing campaign, right? You want to be talking to, influencers and want them to be creating content, right? But at the same time, there's a limited amount of big value or big numbers influencers. Normally, you would be going on Web2. Let's say you would be going to the TV or to the radio, or you would be going to Google Ads. And what I see as well is that as AI comes on online, right, we're starting to not use search as much, right? I think that social marketing is going to be exploding. And the question is what type of infrastructure will be created on that front? And so what Rally is this essentially this set of intelligent contracts that allow you to create creator campaigns on any blockchain. And then you define the goals of the specific campaign, right? You say, okay, I want you to talk about Genlayer, about this specific feature of Genlayer, and I want people to come in and talk about that in a way that it's correct, that it's engaging, right? What happens is that under the hood, the Rally protocol is going to Genlayer protocol to essentially review the submissions, the tweets. So, Tony, you tweet something about the intelligent oracle, for example. You tweet something about it, then you submit the tweet, and then the campaign, which is defined to, hey, I want people to be talking about the intelligent oracle, about this specific functionality. It's essentially taking your tweet, downloading it, and the consensus evaluates whether your tweet is valid, correct, if it's engaging, how much engagement did it get, right? So qualitative and quantitative metrics to essentially decide whether you should be paid this or that much, right? And so if you think about where we're going is, hey, in a world where social, social marketing is going to be exploding more and more, how do you make it so that you can own the narrative, right? How can you make it so that instead of having a single influencer that has 1 million followers, right, you can have 100 that have 10,000 followers, much more targeted on what you're doing, right? There was a video a couple of days ago that was talking about like influencer arbitrage, right? So that's a quite interesting way of putting it, right? How can you essentially have, instead of one super big influencer that at the end of the day has a limited bandwidth, right? Like they cannot be tweeting 50 times a day, right? So, they can tweet, once or twice or whatever number per week. What happens if instead of having one of those, you can have, 10,000 creators, influencers that can shape and push the narrative that you want to go for, right? So it's like you can get essentially, you can think about how would you manage a campaign with 1,000 influencers? Imagine the headache of all the contracts and sourcing and the distribution.
1,000, hard, very hard.
Madness, very, very hard. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's, can we automate that, right? Can we have a contract, an escrow, right? An intelligent contract that can evaluate the quality of those content or that content, and can essentially then decide who should be rewarded and how much in a way that there's no human in the loop, right? So the trustless decision making is, you don't need to be trusting a human to evaluate whether your tweet is worth this much or that much. It's this AI consensus from ZenLayer, right? The optimistic democracy that decides who should be paid and how much, right? Based on the content and the different spec, let's say, of the campaign, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes it really interesting here, I think, for everyone who's listening as well, is who hasn't had the chance to look into optimistic democracies, that you really have the best AI models here evaluating your content. So it's not like, oh, I could just GPT it. Well, no, because you actually have the best models who are evaluating your content, agreeing on that by consensus on a majority, and then your post gets assigned these points. But we're also going to look at those a bit later on in the platform.
Yeah. I guess if I can say, like, to me, it's like I think about Uniswap, right? Which at the end of the day is like, this pool that allows anybody to exchange from one token to the other, right? And then you have the yield farming kind of like narrative and movement, right?
Yeah.
It's more like shield farming, right? You can basically create an incentive mechanism that anybody can come in and essentially fight for, or like compete with, or even collaborate with, in order to get the pot, let's say, right? So I think it's going to be also quite interesting because it allows for different types of campaigns that are quite funny. So I think we'll see quite a lot of interesting things in there.
We see a few names popping up already. What you said before is influencer arbitrage. Now it's, how did you say, shill farming? Shill farming.
I think it's funny.
Maybe.
What I really like is that it shows that you will have new primitives on ZenLayer, right? To me, that's the main point, because like we're building ZenLayer because we think that it will enable new types of applications, right? So it's important that you start to see these new types of applications that are not just the same thing, but like new things completely, right? So from prediction markets to Influfy or Influfy. There's going to be lots of like games like this that people are going to be able to play with, right? And yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. Okay, well, before we look into the platform and the specifics, nits and grits and everything that's going on, if I'm just someone watching here today and I'm like, well, Rally sounds interesting. I am a content creator. As you said before, anyone can participate. So basically, Rally is democratizing access to being a content creator, actually, to earn as a content creator, no matter what size and how big you are, what your following is. If I'm now someone watching, let's say Sly had a very good question of, how we ensure the integrity of AI models, and Sly, we're going to get into this. But if Sly is asking, well, how can I sign up for this? I've heard so much about Rally Alpha. What's the mechanism? How do I get into this? How do I actually start producing content?
Right. So the thing right now is that this is still working on the DevNet, right? So Rally right now is deployed on a DevNet, and the DevNet is basically running the consensus and running the ZenVM. So the whole thing is basically as it's going to be in when we go, ZenLayer goes into mainnet, right? So right now what's happening is that this DevNet is essentially managing all the transactions and making sure that everything works correctly. That doesn't scale as quickly as when we're going to be in mainnet, right? So there's there's a lot of things to essentially work on that front. So the system that is set up right now is like this. There's this wait list. Then people joining the wait list can essentially scale up on the wait list and be part of the network in a way by bringing other people on the network, right? And then as you advance on the wait list, and as as the project feels comfortable onboarding more participants, then more participants are essentially invited onto the alpha, right? So Rally right now is in an alpha state. It's going to be like this, I think, for a few weeks, right? So it's basically where the campaigns are basically like just created by the Rally team, and then these campaigns created are actual real campaigns, right? That are essentially rewarding what's called Rally points, right? Eventually, like that will change, right? The goal is to basically, give me a second, because the cat likes to shut my computer down, so it's not good. So basically, right now you can participate already in some of these campaigns, like not many of them, like 4 or 5 of them, right? I know that there's more every day, and slowly people are being invited to participate, but focused on the people that either are at the top of the leaderboard or that really add more value, right? So there's quite a lot of things here, right? So Rally wants to be this decentralized marketing protocol, right? And there's a lot to marketing, not just content creation. There's also analytics and referrals. There's a lot of different things that are part of a decentralized marketing protocol. And so right now the flow is basically you start on the wait list, you get there, you try to get ahead of others basically by participating, which means right now having high scores in the type of content that you create or inviting new people. It really matters a lot who you invite, basically, right? And think about more like a network rather than just the referral system, right? It actually means that people that are onboarding people that are bringing people that are also high value net value. Like it's like the network value, right? It's like how many people can you move, right? How many people can the people that you move as well, right? It's like it's quite important to essentially understand that it's about who can move the needle the best, right? The most.
And essentially, that would mean that if you have real engagement and if you have real organic followers who are also interacting with your post, you would have a higher value for the network than someone who has just botted their account with numerous fake accounts and bots.
I mean, that's part of the thing as well, right? Like what we see right now is that influencer marketing is quite opaque, right? There's lots of opacity. Prices are like all over the place. There's lots of botted accounts. There's lots of noise, right? And so the question I think is, how do you make it so that it's more about the quality, right, than the noise, right? How do you create a creator campaign that really moves the needle, not just drives numbers, right? And that's I think very much a priority, right? So by focusing on people that can drive momentum, right, through inviting other people or through creating valuable content, and then the AI will be evaluating, right? Then you essentially create a protocol that can move masses, right? It's like you creating like a global creator community that every day will have new types of campaigns from different projects where they can be participating on different activities, right, for different purposes as well. So it doesn't necessarily need to be that you're just talking about a product, right? It can be, from the funniest joke to maybe like, a meme coin distribution. Imagine a fair launch for a meme coin where you're saying 30% of the supply is going to go to the people that are essentially talking about the meme coin itself, right? So it's just another type of distribution mechanism. It really opens quite a few very interesting doors, I think. So,
okay, so as you mentioned, Albert, waitlist.rally.fun, sign up there. You will see that there are 3 metrics that assign you points. Those are called access points. And Albert, you mentioned before there is, so there was this question of people asking, okay, well, what if I get in through the access points and then I start earning campaign points? The access points will not get lost, right? So if you keep referring people, although you're already earning campaign points, that will pay off in the future. Like it's not that your access points are just erased all of a sudden.
That's right. So like as I said, right, like a marketing protocol would not be just let's say for the content creation. Let's say that being able to understand like who moves the needle, right, is a very important aspect of this. So even if you're part of the wait list and you have a certain amount of access points, which obviously give you access faster than if you don't have it, right? by essentially continuing that, like essentially continuing to participate, will also mean, for example, that you will have eligibility for specific campaigns that are just for people that move the needle, right? Among other things, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of what I know, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's, yeah. But the idea is essentially that, yeah, the wait list doesn't end just with when you get into the platform, right? There's a lot more to it than that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to show here an example of how this screen looks like. It's very simple actually. You just open the waitlist.rally.fun URL. You land on this side. You can connect your X here immediately, and then you see how much points you've earned. Obviously, there's people that have a much higher score than I have, but then you can see the referral bonus, how many people you've referred, which is based on 10% of the referrers points as well. So the person earns as well on waitlist.rally.fun. And then you have a tweet count and Cato Yaps metric, which are also used to evaluate your access points. And as Albert said, those are not lost. So even if you get, like I do, I can show you in the next screen. I am in I have access to app.rally.fun. Like mysteriously they just gave me access, and what happens is you can see all the campaigns that are currently live, and there you can participate and earn campaign points. But really what it looks like is, so you open the screen, you can connect your wallet, you can connect your X, and then you can see all of the campaigns. As Albert mentioned before, you can, well, actually, you did mention it, but we didn't see it visually, Albert. Maybe you want to talk us through how this is shaped. These are the campaigns. You can see if you're eligible. Like, how does it work with campaigns on a project side, but also on a content creator side?
So on the campaign creator side, right? So like on the project side of things, what happens is that you have the Rally protocol is deployed on a bunch of different networks, right? At the beginning, it's based on ZK Sync Era. There's going to be basically accessibility through layer 0 to any other, for starters, with EVM chains, right? And so anybody, it's a permissionless protocol, anybody can create a campaign on any chain that is connected to Rally right now, or like when it's going to be. And then what's happening is that you can create a campaign and you can define a set of missions, right? So you say, okay, I want you to talk about the intelligent oracle. I want you to do it with this, type of approach. This is the knowledge base, like what it's about, and what are the rules, right? I want you to be fudding the intelligent oracle. I want you to be, expressing, about the partnership, whatever you need to do, right? And then when you define that, you basically deploy it, right, with a pool, right? You just with a pod, sorry, right? So you put a bunch of tokens behind. Say, if people are talking about my product in this specific way, then this many days and this much duration and so on, then it's going to be the contract itself that's going to be rewarding the users for their content, right? Now, if you want to click on one of these, right? So here's the campaigns that are created right now, that are live right now, right? And so when you go into one of them, what you see is the different missions that people can participate. Do you want to maybe open it?
Yeah, one second. I was just where would you like to go in? Rally Alpha Rush? Is that fine?
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So this is how it looks like. This is the main campaign screen, right?
Right. So what you see here is basically there is this Rally Alpha Rush, right? That's the campaign. And inside of this, I don't know how many missions there are. I think that there's maybe one. Is it only one?
There's two.
Two missions, right? So in this case, what happens is you read the briefing, right? You see a little bit like what the campaign and the mission is about, right? Here you have the description, right? You have the rules, right? Like, okay, for me, it's hard. The screen is a bit small, so I don't really see it well. But you can see the mission, the description. You can see the, I don't know how I can hide this. Yeah, anyway, pretty hard. It's very small. Yeah, anyway. And so basically what you see is the description, you see the rules. Amazing. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And then if you click on the briefing, you basically see like how it works, right? So like, okay, what do you need to know in order to fulfill this campaign? So, like, you need to be using this specific link, or like this is the terminology that you need to do, and so on and so forth, right? And so when you submit the mission, right, what you need to do is just you tweet on Twitter, then you just put that link on the mission specifically, and then the AI is going to be going and evaluating. If you want to stay there on the chart, I think that's quite interesting, right? Because like the way that really works is like all these AIs are evaluating different metrics, right? So they're looking at, is your content original, right? So there's this thing, I mean, just for those a bit more geeky, there's this thing called the vector store, right? Which is how do you do semantic search? How do you look at the similarity between one piece of content and another, right? So that GenLayer has that as an intelligent contract capability. That means that you can basically see that your tweet is too alike, too similar to another tweet that somebody did. So you're probably copying that tweet and just like, so, and this is actually pretty good to detect as well what's being AI generated, because, at the end of the day, most people are generating it, like many people are generating with AI, right? So the goal is how do you make it so that there's less incentive to be just creating AI noise, right? AI slop, right? And instead just trying to do like handcrafted, well thought tweets that really just go to the specific points defined by the campaign, right? And so there's a bunch of different things, right? You can say it needs to be very accurate or not, right? It needs to be different or the same. It needs to be, funny. Like you can define the type of, metrics. There's about 20 different things. It also depends on, whether you have engagement or not. So you can create a campaign that depends completely on engagement or that doesn't, right? Maybe you want to give the community, let's say that meme coin, right? That wants to give the community an opportunity to participate, even if they don't have a lot of followers, right? All you need to do is just you put that down. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So sorry, Albert, to interrupt you. So what Albert was saying is also you have these campaign briefings, which would show you, the style you have to communicate in and the rules. For instance, post in English. That would be like the base. And then in the mission specifically, you would find, mission specific rules. The mission has to be, the post has to be a thread, or you have to tag rally on chain. You have to keep it only product specific. So that would be kind of the specific rules for the mission. But right. within the campaign, you can find those, and I'm just pointing to the content evaluation criteria here, because there was a question before in the chat. How can I earn as a small creator? And well, actually, the thing is that, as Albert mentioned before, you have these core gates that, for instance, your content has to align with what is described in the campaign and missions description. It has to be original and authentic. This is what Albert mentioned before, no AI slop. It would only get duplicated, for instance. And then obviously you have these engagement metrics. And I think, Albert, what's important here to add is that the project that is creating this campaign, or whoever creates this campaign, can set those metrics. They can set those metrics themselves. So if they decide, well, actually engagement doesn't matter at all for me, I just want original, high quality content, they could tune up these gates here to 1. So it's always between 0 and 1 in 0.1 steps. And then they could just really put the engagement levels to 0. What that would mean is, even if your post has 0 likes, but it is very good, high quality, explaining something in a very good way, you would get a lot of points. Here in this case, campaign points, which we have to distinguish from the access points. And you would get, a few points on this campaign. Sorry, Albert. I can't recall where you stopped before.
That's okay. No, I think that's good, right? So you have all these evaluation criteria. And also I think that there's another interesting component of this in terms of like what you can do, right? Because like, as I said, the shield farming before, right? It's like on Uniswap, you have a lot of different things you can do in terms of the price curve and so on. But of course, like, with more versions has become much more complex, right? As well. In here, there's another thing similar to that, which is that each campaign can have a specific like distribution curve, right? So you have the chart a little bit below, right? So when you define a campaign, you can essentially define whether, let's say 1% of the people should be getting like 99% of the pot in a way, right? Like it depends on how much campaign points you get. So how it works is you submit the tweet, the AIs evaluate your tweet, it gives you a number of campaign points, and then there's a period. Let's say that, for example, you want to do for a month, the period is 1 week, so there's 4 periods in 1 month, right? And then what's happening is that at the end of the period is looking at your campaign points versus my campaign points versus everybody's, and putting that into a curve so that then you can essentially see who won, right? So it could be perfectly that 1% of the campaign points are getting 99% of the pot, or something more fair. It could be like 40-60, right? Depends on the goal of the campaign, right? For the meme coin, maybe you want something more, you want everybody to be able to get similar. So maybe you want the engagement to be down for some campaign. Maybe you want the engagement to be up for another campaign. Maybe you want it to be 1 in 100 for another one, right? So there's a lot of different approaches to it. I mean, it's quite
so you
technical.
could set it for like 1% gets 99% of the rewards. And let's say you just want this one viral post that has a lot of engagement. You could say, okay, well, out of 100 people, only one gets like almost everything from the rewards, like 99% of the cake. You set 100 campaign points or rally points, and at the end of the day, this one person that has the best engagement, obviously, with the quality in mind, gets 99%, so 99 points, for instance.
Right. Yeah, it gives you basically a lot of versatility to do different types of campaigns, right? And that's what I'm so excited about. Is like I feel like it really demonstrates what you can do on GenLayer in a way that how else can you do that? Well, if you have 10,000 participants in one of these campaigns and you need to review all of them and get all the legals, like it's just really, really complex. Well, here you basically have a marketplace where you have some idea. You just put some money behind it so that people can participate in the idea. And you literally can own the narrative, right? So I think it's super interesting. I'm very
okay. We have a few questions here. I know I haven't addressed them before. I think now is a very good time to address a few of those, which is, for instance, Stingam Stron is asking, can we submit more than one post in a single campaign? Maybe you can explain periods again, Albert. Like, how does it work with periods and campaigns?
So you create a campaign. When you create a campaign, you define multiple missions, right? Or one. And you define the duration. So you can say in this case, right? So you have, again, the screen is very small. So basically in this case is about 2 weeks, right? Yeah, I don't see it very well.
So this period is 5 days with 3 periods. So it's 15 days in total.
15 days. Yeah. So you see in this case, it's quite clear, right? It's like duration is like 3 weeks, right? So, like 2 weeks, so 15 days, 5 days each period, 3 periods. And then in this case, there's no max submissions, which basically means that you can participate multiple times in the same campaign, right? In this case, it's just one submission per mission per period. So you can essentially, participate only once per period, right? If not, that wouldn't really make a lot of sense, I think, right? But it depends. You can also make it, for example, that there's a limited amount of submissions that people can do, right? And then it's about who's faster, for example, while at the same time being in this competition with the other creators, right? Yeah
definitely. Let us know if that was clear, Singham. Okay, Cloudy is asking, let's see, Cloudy, where did you go? Oh, here. Are there any opportunities for people who are not KOLs or smart followers?
So it depends on a bunch of different things. First of all, even if you're not a KOL, but you can move the needle, right? For example, how to bring other creators on board, right? There is an opportunity there, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like first, like the referral system again, right? This is a marketing protocol. So what would you expect in a marketing protocol, right? You would say like influencer marketing, right? Referral marketing, different type of incentives as well, analytics, right? So it has a bit of everything, right? And different parts of it will be used for different aspects, I think, of in terms of rewards and so on, right? So the referral system, I know that it essentially gives you 10% of the campaign points from whoever you bring on board, right? As I said before, moving the needle is an important aspect, right? If you can bring someone that is a bigger influencer and this person already brings more people, that means that you brought a lot of value to the network, right? So it's a lot about, how much value can you bring to the network, even if you don't have a lot of followers, right? Or if we go back to the meme coin, example before, right? Maybe you want to create a mission that's focused on influencers that really has turned on, the engagement metric, right? For the engagement, looking at how many likes, how many, retweets, what is the quality, or what do people respond to you, right? So it's actually the AIs are looking at the actual replies to understand whether those are real replies or not, like are they from verified people or not, do they make sense, or do they just repeat the same thing, for example, right? So it's trying to do all of that, right? So for a meme coin in this case, we would have one maybe targeted to influencers, maybe another one targeted to the community, different allocations, different rules. Maybe this is 30-70, the other one, yeah. So it's just
yeah, and I think again, so what we mentioned before is that Albert mentioned this very important aspect of 10% of all campaign points as well as access points go to the referrer. So you have 10% of all campaign points. And again, the access points, even after you access Rally Alpha, are going to be very important in the future. So the more points you get, whether it be access or campaign points, that's going to be beneficial for you. Okay, another question from Cloudy. Does Rally have any way to filter spam bots or report users?
Is that for the creation, or you mean for the content, or for the campaigns themselves, right?
Well, I think, sorry to interrupt you, Albert. I think the report users, if you have campaigns that are created by projects and they are like clearly saying no spam, no harassment, and you do some of that, the content will not even pass, right? So you won't earn anything for that campaign or for that specific mission anyway. And to filter spam bots, I think that you have been exploring this a bit more with the submission gas fee, right?
Yeah, so this is working on top of GenLayer, right? And so you need to understand GenLayer is this network. There's going to be 1,000 validators. Each one of them running the LLMs. The LLMs have a cost, the network itself. So you can think about it like, let's say Ethereum, right? You're paying for the gas on Ethereum for the validators to run the transaction, right? So in this case, the part of the spam prevention is just the gas that you need to submit in order to participate, right? So now during alpha, there's no gas. In beta, there's going to be a gas component to it. But basically, it's just, how do you essentially filter as many people as possible, as many bots as possible, right? Also, as I said before, like this vector store thing, right? So having semantic capabilities to understand whether it's, well-crafted or not, it really if you're not trying to bring more value, like if your content is just a slop, it will not get passing through most of these core gates. To be honest, I've submitted a few. It turns out that these AIs are actually quite challenging to work with. So sometimes they tell you need to do better. It's like you need to make it. Yeah, you need to make a bit of an effort in order for the content to actually be submitted and be approved by the consensus, right? Which I don't know. It's quite. Some of them are quite brutal. Yeah.
Well, eventually I can even show you an example of myself. I got 0 points here. Just trying to submit something. I'm not even on the leaderboard. So I tried to submit something that didn't fit the campaign description, and the AI just said, "Well, I don't have any points for you today."
You need to do better.
Which was fun to see. But I did try it again, and I got points. I got a lot of points the second time. I wasn't first, but I got points definitely this time around. Oh, you can see it here actually. Points 218, and I can see my the points breakdown as well. How well is your content aligned? And then I don't want to go too deep into the point explanation, but basically in the docs.rally.fun, you can also find an explanation of the quality metrics are assessed with 1 or 2 points. And then the engagement metrics are assessed with 1 to 5 points, which doesn't mean that one or the other is worth more or less. It's just the way the system assigns those points, and then you get your total of how many points you get. But that's how it looks when you submit your tweet.
If you hover in the question mark, it tells you yeah, you see the points breakdown.
What it is, yeah.
It's a bit lengthy, but it's basically telling you okay, why did you fail?
Yeah,
it's a desperate attempt to do something.
But at least you get a description of why you failed, right? Like that's very nice. Like, yes, it's a bit lengthy, but I think that's very good for people to also improve their content over time.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because at the end of the day, it's removing the opacity from the influencer marketing world, right? It means that people are going to be you will see who is getting paid how much. At the end of the day, it's much more based on merit. So anybody can participate. The rules are transparent. Everybody can see them. Everybody can participate. in any campaign that they're eligible for, of course, right? So when you're creating campaigns, you can also like filter who can participate in some ways. Like you can do a bunch of things like that, right? But yeah, I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very straightforward to use. Like even without an explanation, you would just natively know how to use it. And Sly, to your question, what measures are in place for this? For people copy pasting other people's comments or tweets. Well, actually, that's one part of the quality metrics that we've just shown before, where the AI is evaluating, did anyone else have the same post? And if it's the same post, the AI will tell you like, hey dude, this is actually, someone else had that already. You're just trying to copy paste here, and you wouldn't get any point.
I think also like there could be a way to essentially make it so that you can dispute some of the evaluations, right? You could say, oh, this tweet is basically a copy of another tweet that was done before but wasn't submitted, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that that's in place right now.
Okay, we have another very good question. That's definitely one for you, Albert. How do you envision integrating AI-based content evaluation and Rally's on-chain mechanics into real-world products? Could there be an SDK or API that allows developers to plug Rally's core as plug-and-play solution into their applications?
Yeah, I hear that there's already a project working on basically making it so that any creator, so it's a prediction market in a way, and they want to make it so that any creator immediately can essentially spin up a campaign, right, for their specific token, right?
Yeah.
In terms of SDK, so this is essentially on chain, right? So you can deploy a new campaign, right? And then when you deploy the campaign, it's just like you just going to on chain, deploying a campaign, then deploying the tokens, right? It's very straightforward from a development standpoint, right? You also do it obviously from the interface, right? But the backend, it's basically on chain for the most part.
Yeah. I'm just going through the questions that are rarely related. I've seen a few GenLayer ones as well, which I'm super happy to answer in the AMA or with the next live stream. I'm just being very time conscious. And we also have a few cat comments. How long will the campaigns last? Spin? Depending on how long the project sets it. Like as Albert described before, you have a pot where you can set how many points will be given out. This pot is split into periods, and every period has a certain amount of days. So if you have 5 days with 3 periods, it's a total duration of 15 days. That would be the campaign length. So it really depends on the project. Web4King, we had the same question before, which is some of us don't have plenty of followers to get referral points. Will there be an easier method to whitelist real users? Well, as Albert described before, I mean, one part is your quality from TweetScout, right? So I don't have a huge following, but still I got points from TweetScout because those that I have are pretty high quality. That's what I understood from the TweetScout report as well. And the content is real, right? So that's where I got points from.
50% of more than 50% of my points come from having invited friends, basically, right? So just you can invite people that have points, and like just that will give you points as well. So
yeah, that's right. Okay, we have 2 more questions, which are John775. How will rally points earned during the alpha be converted or rewarded when the project moves to mainnet? Interesting.
1 token, right?
One token.
I mean, I think that the as you can imagine right now, right? Like if you think how many users are participating on Rally right now. Look, I can share with you something. Can I share the screen here?
Yeah, sure. You can just click on present and I will add it to the stage.
Screen. Yeah, this will give you 1 second. Trying to open it, I just don't know where it is. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll do like this. So right now, this is basically how it looks like. You see this? Yeah.
1 sec.
This is how the Rally ecosystem looks right now. Every one of these dots is someone that is in the whitelist right now, right? What you see, like the bigger bubbles, right, are people that move the needle, meaning that are actually onboarding people that drive value, essentially like creating value, even if they don't have a lot of points themselves, right? Like it has nothing to do. Some of them don't have a lot of points, and still, like, they onboard people that then can add value, right? So yeah, it's quite interesting to see a thing like how many participants are. Like, you can see in this case, depending on, well, in this case, it says the minimum network value, right? So like it's a bit complicated, the formula, but you can see how quickly it's expanding in terms of who can bring who. I think it's quite mesmerizing. I love it. It's anyway, just thought I'd share.
It's funny how we're approaching the end of the live stream, and naturally the questions just flow into this direction, which is Leah, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. When will everyone be able to enter the rally? I think that's a very good question.
I think so. Just let me stop the screen. Yeah. So to answer the previous point, right? The thing is, right now people are joining the waitlist. Everybody is essentially demonstrating, can you move the needle, right? Are you a creator? Are you someone that can bring people and essentially make it? What is marketing, right? What do you want? If you're a project and you want marketing, you want to get people that will be moving the needle, right? That will be creating demand for your product, right? And so it's not just a free for all. What it means is that, because of course then you would be having bots everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So how do you filter so that people that are human, that actually are trying to do the best to really move the needle, right? They should be prioritized first. So what are the different ways that you can evaluate that? One of them is the waitlist, right? Can you bring other people in that will then bring other people in? Like, if you do that, then you're demonstrating that you're moving the needle, right? Do you already have a Kaito score or a Tweet Scout score that tells the world already that you're a good creator, right? That's another type of moving the needle, right? And so to answer the previous question, it's impossible to know, because the problem is that there's going to be more and more people that will be joining the waitlist every time, getting a number of points, right? And then it's impossible to understand, like, what are going to be the total number of points created, let's say, on the platform. Yes. So that's one thing. It's just basically there's no way to know. That would be the answer. On the second way, I think everybody will be able to enter Rally. I think it's just, in terms of, scalability. There's a lot of people right now signing in. It's about, how do you let everybody in an orderly manner so that, the system don't completely collapse, right? Jelly is still under development. There's a lot of things to do. The DevNet is holding it pretty well. There's still a lot of room for improvement, right? So we're basically, for us, like on Jelly, it's very interesting to have such an important and powerful application of the technology that allows us to improve the tools, right? The network, like the GenVM, all the different libraries, right? All the different components of the system, which, it would be very difficult to take to production if we didn't have some good application that's making it, sweat a bit.
Yeah. So Albert, once again, why does it pay off as a closing line? Why does it pay off to be early on Rally?
I think in crypto, it always pays off to be early, right? I mean, it's kind of by definition in crypto, right? I think that when there's less competition, you have more room for growth, right? And also, at the end of the day, like, if everybody ends up being on Rally, right, then somebody will have invited that person, right? So it's not like there's infinite amount of people that can be at least in Web3, right? What I find really fascinating as well is that Rally will be exactly the same and like even more powerful on Web2, right? So you can do the same with Reddit, Instagram, YouTube, right? And I think that really that's the future of marketing. It's like in the future there's going to be social marketing will matter a lot more, right? Because like right now we're not watching TV anymore. We're right, like the whole thing has changed a lot in terms of marketing, right? If we start to use Google as much, things change.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah, so it pays. According to Albert, it pays off to be early. And as a last sentence, I know I owe you a POAP Mint link. The POAP Mint link actually will also be used for Rally. So we're going to raffle, and within the next AMA, we're going to raffle for the POAP holders, the general POAP holders, a few spots for Rally Alpha. So as promised today, we have 500 POAPs, and the POAP Mint link is everyone minus likes minus Rally. So everyone minus likes minus rally. I'm also going to share it in the chat. Here we go. Everyone likes rally is the POAP mint link. 500 POAPs for you guys today. Yeah, closing sentence, Albert. Where do we started with this, so we're going to finish with this. Where do we sign up for rally.fun?
Yeah, well, just go to
half of the answer.
Go to the waitlist.rally.fun, right? And just sign up. I mean, it's just a couple clicks, right? I think what matters is more what you do after, which is try to bring more people, try to essentially make it well known, right? And to me, it means a lot that we have such a strong protocol as the first application being built on top of GenLayer. It's going to open up a lot of doors and will make people understand what GenLayer is about, right? Because it's still not easy to understand such a complex system, right? So yeah, it's just a couple of clicks.
Okay, perfect. I think that was a very good last sentence. Albert, thank you very much. And for the rest of the community, join us on GenLayer's Discord. Actually, join us for those of you who are watching from Rally. Follow us on X. Happy to see you soon for another community AMA and live stream. So thanks everyone, and see you soon.
Thank you all.